Kamalem gan bahis namna mayam butaram no ksha bagalo ina kok no na kurumjari. Aniruk suba video The Richest Man in Babylon aniruk suba tangkak pauk thaga chakrabagi matung na ngasi amuk puduna laksari. Ahumlak suba tangkak The Richest Man in Babylon gi ahumlak suba tangkak ngasi gi tangkak asida ahanba contents weriba a rough sketch about a historical sketch of Babylon. Babylon gi maram da iramba historical sketch ngasi fawbada loisan jagadawri bane. So hawbadagina loibakse tabiyo mayamna duga aina pathokchariba adagidi mayamga taminazariba si mayamse ai khangi hai haiduna tawjaba natade aina ithanda pagiba yai ithanda khangkiba yai adubu wakal idea mayamse mayam punna khangminasi haiduna aina sum pathokchabane mayam kanaba lawba yaba yauribra haibadu adum yengbiyo nahana koina pathokkibadu kadai fawba yaukrabage haibadu adugi makha ngasi laksage nahana koina yaukhibadu 8000 years ki mamangda lairambadu dead koina proof tawba ngammi khotli kari phangbadagi matam aduda sizinaramba kai haitare matam aduda moina solar eclipse ki mawong ama thanamba adugi date to puthoaga yeng kanjida hojiki matam ji olaga yeng kanjida 8000 years ki mamangda leiramani habadu khangmangamgi adugi matanga du yaukrabani Herodotus na satpagi matang yaukre ngasi je makha lakjarage Herodotus, the Greek traveler and historian, visited Babylon while it was in its prime and has given us the only known description by an outsider. Herodotus, Greek traveler, Herodotus, mana kaidoroba travel tawba matamsida mana lamkoiba chatpa matamsida Babylon sina yam saukhatpa matam oiringai Babylon sina yam kai hatare yam magi a prime da leiringai matamsida mana sakhiba matam aduga mana matam aduda leiramba Babylon gi maramda mahakna irammeba ma khaktang neba Babylon dagi nataba atopa outsider habadi mapan gi mi amana Babylon gi maramda iramba thagatlamba se Herodotus mathan kaktane. His writings give a graphic description of the city and some of the unusual customs of its people. Mana iramba sing the utli city du leramba graphic description mong mato karmaina leramba kotlamba haiba the Herodotus na magi iramba du utli aduga mafam adu da leramba mi sing du na chatnaramba ataiga manadaba adugumba chatnabi mayam adu Herodotus na irammeba. He mentions the remarkable fertility of the soil and the bountiful harvest of wheat and barley which they produce. Mana iramba matamsida hairiba Babylon hairiba mafam asida leibak lehau yam chang yam ka hena phaba adagidi mafam aduda puthokiba wheat amasung barley gi chang se yam marang kaina puthokiba gi maramda mahakna iramme Herodotus na. The glory of Babylon has faded, but its wisdom has been preserved for us. Babylon gi mai pakpa chawkhatpa mayam dudi mangkre mutkre adubu magi loksing gyan mayam dudi akoi gi damakta ngak chelaga adum thamame preserve toroga thambirame. For this we are indebted to their form of records. Masigi damakta akoina moina thamame record sing du akoi je kedoroba indebted oire akoi je laman to chen ba habado to eba moigi record sing du. In that distant day, the use of paper had not been invented. Yam thaina ngai adugi matam adu the paper seasinaram the seasinaram they instead they laboriously engraved their writing upon tablets of moist clay adugi mahota moina yam wan khonara kan moina iramba mayam do chochot lauba clay jing jida moina iraga thanammeba. When completed this were back and became hard tile aduga moina iba loiraba matung sida moina iriba mayam jing do tile gi mongda yam kanjhala leba amona kai gi danaba mangi danaba adugi mongda kanjhala lami. In size they were about 6 by 8 inches and an inch in thickness aduga hairiba tile mayam jing dugi size yenga kansida 6 into 8 ne lakadoi se length into 6 into 8 means breadth into length inches aduga athaba sina inchi amamuk thaiba ngasagi tile sing dugi athaba khara adum thare aduga pakpa chawbu ju khara adum chawre. These clay tablets, as they are commonly called, were used much as we use modern forms of writing. Hariba clay tablet mayam sing moina commonly moina maming je clay tablet aina koroma male. Hariba se akoigi modern form of writing sida akoina iriba sigi type ta moigi clay tablet sing moina iriga thanameba moigi record mayam sing se. Upon them were engraved legends, poetry, history, transcriptions of royal decrees, the laws of the land, titles to property, promissory notes, and even letters which were dispatched by messengers to distant cities. Hariba moigi clay tablet sing du iramize ke keno hara kansida moigi legend mayam wari liraba wari mayam adagi saireng adagi puwari adagi ningthau singi oiba chatnabi chatna pathap lo mayam adagi leibak tugi chatna pathap adagi kanagi maming da karamba lanthum lei adagidi ka wasaknabagi notes adi deal tawnabagi notes kumba adagi chithi bawba irameba arapa mafamda thanaba hariba moigi clay tablet sing From these clay tablets were permitted an insight into the intimate personal affairs of the people. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ clay tablet ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯄꯥꯔꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯈꯪꯉꯛꯏꯅꯦꯕ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯕ ꯃꯤꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯆꯠꯅꯔꯝꯕ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯔꯁꯣꯅꯦꯜꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯀꯔꯝꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯆꯠꯅꯔꯝꯃꯤ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ. For example, one tablet evidently from the records of a country storekeeper relates that upon the given date, a certain named customer brought in a cow and exchanged it for 7 sacks of wheat, 3 being delivered at a time and the other 4 to await the customer's pleasure. ꯑꯗꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯔꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯈꯨꯗꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯇꯦꯕ꯭ꯂꯦꯠ ꯑꯃꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯗꯒꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯐꯪꯕ ꯉꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯔꯦꯀꯣꯔꯠ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯝꯃꯦ ꯇꯦꯕ꯭ꯂꯦꯠꯇꯨꯗ. ꯀꯔꯝꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯝꯕ ꯔꯦꯀꯣꯔꯠꯅꯣ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯀꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯆꯩ ꯌꯣꯟꯕ ꯗꯨꯀꯥꯟ ꯑꯃꯁꯤꯗ ꯅꯨꯄꯥ ꯑꯃꯁꯤꯅ ꯁꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯄꯨꯔꯒ ꯂꯥꯛꯑꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯥꯒꯤ ꯁꯟꯗꯨꯒ ꯋꯤꯠꯀꯤ ꯒꯦꯍꯨꯒꯤ ꯈꯥꯎ 8ꯀ ꯑꯣꯟꯅꯈꯤꯕꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯀꯣꯔꯠ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯈꯥꯎ 8ꯀ ꯑꯣꯟꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯀꯣꯔꯠꯇꯨꯗ ꯈꯥꯎ 3 ꯑꯃ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯁꯟꯗꯨ ꯊꯅꯝꯃꯒ ꯄꯨꯔꯒ ꯆꯠꯈ꯭ꯔꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯀꯁꯇꯃꯔꯗꯨꯅ ꯄꯦꯜꯂꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯄꯦꯟꯗꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯌꯦꯡꯅꯅꯕꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛ ꯈꯥꯎ 3 ꯑꯃ ꯄꯨꯔꯒ ꯆꯠꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ. ꯈꯥꯎ 4 ꯑꯃ ꯂꯧꯗꯕꯤ ꯂꯩꯍꯧꯕꯒꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯔꯦꯀꯣꯔꯠ ꯏꯔꯝꯕ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯔꯤꯕ. Safely buried in the wrecked cities, archaeologists have recovered entire libraries of these tablets, hundreds of thousands of them. Safely buried in the wrecked cities. ꯀꯥꯏꯗ ꯇꯣꯏꯔꯕ cities ꯃꯐꯝꯗꯨꯗ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯤꯅ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯆꯥꯅ ꯐꯨꯝꯖꯜꯂꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ clay tablet ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ clay tablet ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ archaeologists ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗꯅꯦ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯤꯅ ꯈꯨꯝꯖꯟꯕ ꯉꯝꯃꯦꯕ. ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯑꯣꯡ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯕ ꯂꯥꯏꯕ꯭ꯔꯦꯔꯤ ꯑꯃꯒꯤ ꯃꯑꯣꯡꯗ ꯑꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ clay tablet hundreds of thousands ꯆꯥꯝꯃ ꯂꯤꯁꯤꯡ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ. ꯄꯨꯟꯁꯤꯜꯂꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯥꯏꯕ꯭ꯔꯦꯔꯤ ꯑꯃꯐꯥꯎ ꯁꯦꯝꯕ ꯌꯥꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯑꯣꯡꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯦ ꯁꯤꯅꯤ. One of the outstanding wonders of Babylon was the immense wall surrounding the city. Babylonꯒꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯉꯛꯅꯤꯡꯉꯥꯏ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ outstanding wonder ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯉꯛꯅꯤꯡꯉꯥꯏ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯍꯥꯏꯇꯥꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯄꯥꯛ ꯆꯥꯎꯕ ꯋꯥꯜ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯂꯩꯕꯗꯨꯅꯦꯕ. ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯗꯣ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯜꯂꯒ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯋꯥꯜꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯅꯤ. The ancients ranked them with the Great Pyramid of Egypt as belonging to the 7 wonders of the world. The ancients ranked them with the Great Pyramid of Egypt. ꯊꯥꯏꯅꯉꯥꯏꯒꯤ ancient ꯉꯜꯂꯤꯉꯩ ꯃꯇꯝꯒꯤ ꯀꯥꯡꯕꯨꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯃꯣꯏꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯋꯥꯜ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ Great Pyramid of Egypt ꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯗ 7 wonders of the world ꯆꯟꯕ Great Pyramid of Egypt ꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯆꯜꯂꯤꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ. Queen Semiramis is credited with having erected the first walls during the early history of the city. Queen Semiramis se sida credit pi kaidobagidamagta ahanba wall se mana history of the city se ahanba wall se mana sakhibani haibagi credit se mongonda pi mongonda kai hatare thagatpa je thami. Modern excavators have been unable to find any trace of the original walls. Hojing matamgi laibak tokthok khotoga thiba khotpa mayam singsina phangba ngamdreba asengba wall singdo karamaina leramano khotpano haibadudi nor is their exact height known. Aduga moi kyam wangba height oiramano haibadusu khangdre. From mention made by early writers, it is estimated they were about 50 to 60 feet high, placed on the outer side with burnt brick and further protected by a deep moat of water. Adubu moigi ancient gi moigi ngallingai matamgi ayiba singduna moigi clay tablet singdu thanamagi matungina sumaina panai madudi moigi wall singsa 60 dagina 50 dagina 60 feet phak wange yankai dagina humpu feet yankai dagina humpu mu wange aduga mapan thangba saruk sidana burn brick habadi mai tharaba maina kahat halaba brick sina mapan thanghalle aduga hariba wall singse amuk karina protect toge hakan by the deep moat of water hadi wall dugi matai sida kai hatari ising mayam chelala kan sida wall se protect toge sini haise. The later and more famous walls were started about 600 years before the time of Christ by King Nabopolassar. Aduga the later and more famous walls akon bata lakpa adagi hena su maming chapa wall mayam sing sidi kanana mo hogdu ombano haira kan sida Christ na laktringai sahi satruk muki mamang sida ningthau Nabopolassar hariba nupa sina hogdu ombaneba. Upon such a gigantic scale did he plan the rebuilding, he did not live to see the work finished. Mana tawramiba plan se kyamuk sam yam tina pak sawa yam tina wangba adugumba wall amaniba mana plan tawramis karamai dogi ha kana ma se wall se loiba ma yengba phangidi si ki wall se chanba loidringai means yam tina sawreba ma hingingai dagi sabaduna sigrabau adum saraga le rebuilding saraga le haurini yam tina sawkre. This was left to his son Nebuchadnezzar, whose name is familiar in biblical history. Hariba mana loishalamdabu wall se magi masanupa Nebuchadnezzar hariba nupa sida loishalona thaname magi masanupa sida hariba maming ase sidi bible gi history da mu thengnarakadaba adugumba maming amane. The height and length of this latter walls staggers belief. Hariba akonbagi height amasung leng se wall sigi sidi yam thina wang sawrena khalle. They are reported upon a reliable authority to have been about 160 feet high, the equivalent of the height of a modern 15-story office building. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯨꯛ ꯄꯥꯛ ꯆꯥꯎꯅ ꯋꯥꯡꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯒꯤ ꯔꯤꯄꯣꯔꯠꯁꯦ ꯐꯪꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔ ꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯔꯤꯂꯥꯏꯕꯜ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯣꯊꯣꯔꯤꯇꯤ ꯑꯃꯗꯒꯤ ꯐꯪꯉꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ 160 feet ꯋꯥꯡꯉꯦꯅ ꯔꯤꯄꯣꯔꯠꯁꯦ ꯂꯩꯌꯦꯕ ꯊꯤ ꯋꯥꯡꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ 160 feet ꯋꯥꯡꯉꯦ ꯋꯥꯜꯁꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯀꯔꯤꯒꯤ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯤ ꯃꯇꯝꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ 15-story office building ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯃꯊꯣꯟ 35 ꯋꯥꯡꯕ ꯑꯣꯐꯤꯁꯀꯤ ꯕꯤꯜꯗꯤꯡ ꯑꯃꯒ ꯋꯥꯡꯕ ꯃꯥꯟꯅꯈ꯭ꯔꯦꯕ ꯋꯥꯜꯁꯦ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯊꯤꯅ ꯋꯥꯡꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ. The total length is estimated between 9 and 11 miles. ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯋꯥꯜꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯑꯁꯥꯡꯕꯁꯤꯅ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯨꯛ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯁꯥꯡꯉꯝꯒꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ estimate ꯇꯧꯒꯦ ꯄꯥꯅꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔ ꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ 9 and 11 miles. 9 ꯃꯥꯄꯟꯗꯒꯤꯅ 12ꯐꯥꯎꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯨꯡ ꯁꯥꯡꯉꯦꯕ miles. So wide was the top that a 6-horse chariot could be driven around them. ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯃꯊꯛ ꯊꯪꯕꯁꯤ ꯀꯌꯥꯃꯨꯛ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯄꯥꯛꯀꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔ ꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯁꯒꯣꯜ 6ꯅ ꯁꯥꯕ ꯁꯒꯣꯜꯒꯤ chariot ꯑꯃꯁꯤ ꯏꯂꯥꯏ ꯂꯥꯏꯅ ꯊꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯌꯦꯕ. Of this tremendous structure, little now remains except portions of the foundations and the moat. ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨꯅꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯄꯥꯛ ꯆꯥꯎꯔꯕ ꯌꯥꯝꯅ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯤꯖꯔꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯃꯑꯣꯡ ꯃꯇꯧ ꯁ꯭ꯇ꯭ꯔꯛꯆꯔꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯂꯦꯝꯍꯧꯔꯤꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯈꯛꯇ ꯉꯥꯏꯍꯧꯔꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔ ꯀꯥꯟꯁꯦ ꯐꯥꯎꯟꯗꯦꯁꯟ ꯈꯛꯇ ꯉꯥꯏꯍꯧꯔꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯑꯀꯣꯏꯕꯗ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯏꯁꯤꯡ ꯊꯝꯅꯅꯕ ꯏꯁꯤꯡ ꯑꯀꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯝꯕꯗꯨ ꯈꯛꯇ ꯉꯥꯏꯍꯧꯔꯦꯕ. In addition to the ravages of the elements, the Arabs completed the destruction by quarrying the brick for building purposes elsewhere. ꯑꯗꯨꯒ in addition to the ravages of the elements ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯗꯣ ꯃꯊꯪ ꯀꯥꯏꯊꯖꯔꯛꯄꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤꯁꯨ ꯃꯊꯛꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯔꯕꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯉꯁꯥꯏꯒꯤ ꯕꯤꯜꯗꯤꯡꯁꯤꯡ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯋꯥꯜ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡ ꯊꯨꯒꯥꯏꯕꯁꯦ ꯑꯔꯕꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯂꯣꯏꯁꯤꯟꯕꯤꯌꯦꯕ ꯃꯤꯟꯁ ꯃꯣꯏꯅꯁꯨ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯊꯨꯒꯥꯏꯕꯤꯌꯦꯕ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯔꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯐꯝꯗꯨꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯕ ꯕ꯭ꯔꯤꯛ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯃꯣꯏꯅ ꯄꯨꯊꯣꯛꯑꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯇꯩ ꯃꯐꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯁꯥꯕ ꯈꯣꯠꯄ ꯀꯩꯀꯩ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯖꯤꯟꯅꯅꯕꯒꯤꯗꯃꯛ ꯃꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯣꯟꯗꯣꯛꯑꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯗꯦꯃꯣꯂꯤꯁ ꯄꯨꯔꯥ ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯔꯦ ꯁꯤꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯅꯤꯡꯉꯤꯁꯦ. Against the walls of Babylon marched in turn the victorious armies of almost every conqueror of that age of wars of conquest. Against the walls of Babylon, Babylongi wall ꯂꯥꯟꯕꯟꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯡꯃꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯃꯥꯏ ꯄꯥꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯑꯥꯔꯃꯤ ꯀꯌꯥ ꯃꯔꯨꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯇꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛꯇ ꯆꯠꯂꯒ ꯂꯧꯁꯤꯟꯕ ꯃꯥꯏ ꯄꯥꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯂꯥꯟꯃꯤ ꯆꯕꯨꯟ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯠꯈ꯭ꯔꯕꯅꯦꯕ. A host of kings led siege to Babylon. ꯃꯐꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯆꯪꯉꯛꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ. But always in vain. ꯑꯗꯨ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯟꯃꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯄꯨꯔ ꯂꯥꯛꯑꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯧꯁꯤꯟꯅꯅꯕ ꯀꯟꯅ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯔꯛꯄ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯑꯃꯠꯇ ꯃꯥꯏ ꯄꯥꯛꯈꯤꯗꯕ ꯉꯥꯛꯇꯅꯤ. Invading armies of that day were not to be considered lightly. ꯃꯇꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛ ꯑꯃꯗ ꯆꯠꯂꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤda ꯂꯧꯁꯤꯟꯅꯅꯕ ꯂꯥꯛꯄ ꯂꯥꯟꯃꯤ ꯃꯁꯤꯡ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯏꯂꯥꯏ ꯂꯥꯏꯅ ꯂꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯗꯦ. Historians speak of such units as 10,000 horsemen, 25,000 chariots, 1,200 regiments of foot soldiers with 1,000 men to the regiment. ꯑꯗꯨꯒ historiansꯤꯡꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯝꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯨꯡ ꯏꯟꯅ ꯃꯇꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯕ ꯂꯥꯟ ꯇꯥꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯁꯤꯖꯤꯟꯅꯕꯁꯦ 10,000 horsemen ꯁꯒꯣꯜꯗ ꯇꯣꯡꯉꯒ ꯁꯒꯣꯜ ꯂꯥꯟꯃꯤ 10,000 ꯑꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯆꯦꯔꯤꯌꯠꯇ 15,000 ꯑꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯃꯤ 1,100ꯒꯤ regiment foot soldierꯗ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ 1,000 men to the regiment ꯑꯃꯃꯝꯗ ꯃꯤ 1,000 ꯌꯥꯎꯕ regiment ꯃꯁꯤꯡ ꯄꯨꯂꯞ ꯀꯌꯥ 1,200 ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯃꯤ ꯀꯌꯥꯅꯣ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯛꯀꯗꯣꯏꯁꯦ 1,000 into 1,200 ꯂꯥꯛꯀꯗꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯊꯤꯅ ꯆꯥꯎꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ 12 lakhs ꯂꯥꯛꯑꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯃꯤ 19,000 ꯑꯁꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯂꯥꯟ ꯇꯥꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ. Often 2 or 3 years of preparation would be required to assemble war materials and depots of food along the proposed line of march. ꯑꯗꯨꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯔꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯆꯍꯤ 2ꯗꯒꯤꯅ 3ꯐꯥꯎ ꯆꯪꯉꯝꯃꯦꯕ ꯂꯥꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯠꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯤ ꯌꯥꯝꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯆꯥꯅ ꯊꯛꯅꯕ ꯆꯤꯟꯖꯥꯛ ꯁꯦꯝꯕ ꯑꯗꯒꯤꯗꯤ ꯀꯔꯝꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯆꯠꯀꯅꯤ ꯂꯥꯟꯃꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯀꯗꯥꯏ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯑꯣꯔꯒꯅꯥꯏꯖ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯁꯤꯗ ꯆꯍꯤ 2 ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯆꯪꯉꯤ. The city of Babylon was organized much like a modern city. Babylonꯒꯤ ꯁꯍꯔꯁꯦ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯇꯝꯒꯤ ꯃꯣꯗꯔꯟꯒꯤ ꯉꯜꯂꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯒꯤ ꯇꯥꯏꯞꯇ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯑꯣꯔꯒꯅꯥꯏꯖ ꯇꯧꯔꯝꯃꯤ. There were streets and shops. ꯃꯇꯝ ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯕ Babylonꯒꯤ ꯁꯍꯔꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯝꯕꯤꯁꯤꯡ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤ, ꯗꯨꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯡ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤ. Peddlers offered their wares through residential districts. Priests officiated in magnificent temples. Peddlers offered their wares through residential districts. Peddlers ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯆꯩ ꯌꯣꯟꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯆꯩ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯌꯣꯟꯕ ꯈꯣꯠꯄꯁꯦ ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟꯁꯤꯌꯦꯜ ꯗꯤꯁꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯛꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯣꯐꯔ ꯄꯤꯔꯝꯃꯤ ꯌꯣꯜꯂꯝꯃꯤ. ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯤꯁ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯂꯥꯏ ꯅꯤꯡꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯦꯒꯅꯤꯐꯤꯁꯦꯟ ꯇꯦꯝꯄꯜꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯐꯤꯁ ꯁꯥꯔ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯄꯥꯛ ꯆꯥꯎꯔ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯤꯔꯕ ꯇꯦꯝꯄꯜ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯟꯕꯟ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯇꯦꯝꯄꯜ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯥꯏꯁꯪ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯃꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯐꯤꯁ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯒ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ. Within the city was an inner enclosure for the royal palace. ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ ꯑꯄꯤꯛꯄ enclosure ꯑꯃ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯦꯕ. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕꯁꯤꯅ ꯔꯣꯌꯦꯜ ꯄꯦꯂꯦꯁ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧ ꯀꯣꯅꯨꯡ ꯑꯣꯏꯒꯗꯧꯔꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯏ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗ. The walls about this were said to have been higher than those about the city. ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧꯒꯤ ꯀꯣꯅꯨꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯩꯒꯗꯧꯔꯤꯕ ꯋꯥꯜ ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯐꯛꯂꯥꯡꯁꯦ ꯁꯤꯁꯤꯅꯅꯦ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯔꯕ ꯁꯤꯇꯤꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯃꯄꯥꯟꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯋꯥꯜ ꯐꯛꯂꯥꯡꯗꯨꯗꯒꯤ ꯍꯦꯟꯅ ꯋꯥꯡꯉꯤꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯝꯃꯤ. The Babylonians were skilled in the arts. Babylonꯗ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯕ ꯃꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ art ningthina yam phajana haisingba adugumba miyoising oirami. This included sculpture, painting, weaving, gold working, and the manufacture of metal weapons and agricultural implements. Haribasing sigi manungda yauramise pochai saba, yekpa, adagidi phi nung saba, adagi sanagi maramda saba, adagidi metal weapon haibadi kuchu kulai sing saba khotpa sigi mayam sing se agriculture gi maramda haiba adugumba khudhaiba mi ngakta leirameba Babylon da leiramba miyoi mayam sing se. Their jewelers created most artistic jewelry. Moigi sana saba kambu sing sina khwaidagi art yawa khwaidagi phajaba sana lupa mayam sing se saki na hai. Many samples have been recovered from the graves of its wealthy citizens and are now on exhibition in the leading museums of the world. Aduga haiba matamda saramba phajaba sana lupa mayam sing se phangeba recover taweb karamba mafamdagi Babylon da leiramba lanthum paiba ina khunba kambu duna sikraba matung sida moina moigi masadada siraga leiba oiramba yai khotpa yai adu mayamdu phangakansida prithivigi exhibition utanaba apau apau museum singda thammaga leiriyaba hojiksu. At a very early period when the rest of the world was still hacking at trees with stone-headed axe or hunting and fighting with flint-pointed spears and arrows, the Babylonians were using axes, spears, and arrows with metal heads. At a very early period, ngalingay matamda atopa miyoisingshina nung na saba kusukulay sizinaraga arrow matonsida nung hapaga khotlaga machin hapaga khotlaga sizinnaringay matamsida Babylon da leiramba kambusingshina di moigi moigi ta adagi singjang adagi moigi ten gi machin si mayam sing loinamak metal head na oire haibadi metal na oire yon oiba adumba oire sini. The Babylonians were clever financiers and traders. Babylon da leiramba mi pumnamakse yamna haisingba adugumba sen thumgi maramda adagi lalol etik tawbada yamna ningthina haisinglaba adugumba mioi ngakta oirami. So far as we know, they were the original inventors of money as a means of exchange of promissory notes and written tiles to property. Aduga akoina hoje pau khangbagi matungina Babylon da leiramba kambu singsina original inventor haibadi paisa medium of exchange akoina hoje sizinariba means of exchange paisa hariba se kanani ihanana puthokibana kana Babylon da leiramba kambu sina puthokibani haibagi record ama leiri kamaina torakansta moina promissory haibadi wasak inaba deal taunanabagi si soi taunanabagi oina thanamba kedoraba property gi mamingda moigi written task the property gi oina thanamba natragana pochai leiba yo matau matamda moina sizinarami adui tagadi asengbadi medium means of exchange paisa se Babylon kamuna ihana puthomani haibase adumaina leiri. Babylon was never entered by hostile armies until about 540 years before the birth of Christ. Babylon sida yamna sathiba army amada sankideba Krishna pokadaba sahi samgaga ni fu yauti phawbadi Krishna pokadaba sahi samga ni fu watlingai dadi yam hostile oiba army kangbu ma Babylon sida sangakadoribane. Even then the walls were not captured. The story of the fall of Babylon is most unusual. Even then the walls were not captured. Matamaduda adu matamdu yautriba wall do kana amatana lanchen bangam lamde kana amatana lanta bangam lamde kana amatana lokshan bangam lamde Babylon se Mike Park ki mighty kani Babylon se tu kani haiba se masi yamna ngakningai oiba yadi toina thoido pot ama oiki. Cyrus, one of the great conquerors of that period, entered to attack the city and hoped to take its impregnable walls. Cyrus, one of the great conquests of that period, matamaduda leiramba atopa lam chatlaga lokshanba Cyrus hariba yamna fawba nupa sina kedoraba pam ki Babylon city je lokshanba aduga magi yamna pak chawrabo impregnable walls kemta phawjin manga maroidaba wall mayam sing lokshan gi haibagi apamba ama Cyrus na thamki. Advisors of Nabonidus, the king of Babylon, persuaded him to go forth to meet Cyrus and give him battle without waiting for the city to be besieged. Advisors of Nabonidus hariba Babylon gi ningthau magi ningthau se sisigi advisor mayam sing sina Nabonidus sida thousand kiba haidi theme kiba kedonana ba Cyrus unarakan sida battle ama tawena without waiting for the city to be besieged. Cities duda Cyrus na laga lan tadringai da nang hana satlaga lan taru so na tumain hai kiba. In the succeeding defeat to the Babylonian army, it fled away from the city. Adudagi ninga sagi adumaina satlaga lan taba matamsida mina lakringai da hana satlaga lan tasilu so na advisor mayam dona haibadagi hana satlaga lan tasilu re Babylon gi ningthoksina audai maithi ra kan sida kedore ngasai loinamak senna khre maithi budagi loinamak sen khre Babylon je thadu amaga sen khre. In the succeeding defeat of Babylon, it fled away. Cyrus thereupon entered the open gates and took possessions without resistance. Adudi Cyrus na maithi ba pira matung dudi ngasai Babylon dudi kana amata leiramdre mangona hana satlaga lan tasilurabanina mana loina maithi ba pira abanina mana Babylon da lakpa matam dadi thingbina ba kana amta leiramdre thingbina ba leiramdrabanina ꯍꯥꯡꯗꯣꯛꯑꯒ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯒꯦꯠꯇꯨꯗ ꯃꯥꯅ ꯃꯅꯤꯡ ꯃꯈꯥ ꯇꯝꯅ ꯆꯪꯁꯤꯜꯂꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯕꯦꯕꯤꯂꯣꯟꯁꯦ ꯏꯂꯥꯏ ꯂꯥꯏꯅ ꯂꯧꯁꯤꯟꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯃꯅꯨꯡꯗꯨꯗ ꯆꯪꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ thereafter the power and prestige of the city gradually won until in the course of a few hundred years it was eventually abandoned deserted left for the winds and storm to level once again to that desert earth from which its grandeur had originally been built adamain torakanjida lawshinkraba matungsidadi magi shakti mayam adagi mingsat mayam loinamak tapna tapna kaitharakle kaidoraba sahi sama mukimam few hundred years sahi sama kharagi matungdadi kaidoraba mafam asida haibadi babylon hariba mafam asida kana amata leitre loinamak thadoga loinamak chatkre adudagidi thadoga chatkraba matungsidadi nungsit no humme nonglai nungsit mayam ama lae adagidi nonglai nungsit mayam ama lak nonglai nungsit mayam ama lakpa ising chau tholak poirambe mayam ama lakpa dudagi ne sari sagatlamba semgatlamba mayam da loinamak kindhara kansida prithvi dagi hauraga malem imas dagi hauraga leibak sidagi hauraga sagalakhiba mayam do amuka hana leibak sida hanjala kansida leitem manana chap manana desert haiba mong do aduda amu hana laikre babylon had fallen never to rise again but to its civilization owes much babylon say to kre amuka hana hogalakpa ngamkidre adubu magi civilization dudadi akoina loinamak tangjaraga leihowi sini the ones of time have crumbled to dust the proud walls of the temples but the wisdom of babylon endures the eons of time have crumbled to dust the proud walls of its temples but the wisdom of babylon endures haibadi matamgi matungina ngasagi wangna wangna sagatlamba wall mayam kedoraba leibak da loinamak tinkre magi temple mayam leibak da loina tinkre temple gi wanglaba phaklang mayam leibak da loinamak tinkre kinthakre kaithakre adubu babylon da leiramba loksing gyan mayam adudi ngasi phawgoda kaiba leitana adum lehori money is the medium by which earthly success is measured adamain tora kansida paisa haiba sa karino haira kansida prithvi sida leiriba akoi gi malem sida leiriba mai pakpa haiba karino onge haira kansida paisa kayam paige haiba sina ole sel kayam paige haiba sina ole money makes possible the enjoyment of the best art efforts malem sida paisa bu leitaragadi sen bu leitaragadi akoina nungai thokpa matamsida phangoi amata leite money is plentiful for those who understand the simple laws which govern its acquisition adamain tora kansida sel haiba sa karam midadi marang kaina leige haira kansida sel je karamaina paigadage haiba sigi niyom khangba law khangba kambu sidadi sel je marang kaina pairaga adum lei money is governed today by the same laws which control it when prosperous men throne the streets of Babylon 6,000 years ago adamain tora kansida ngasidi sel thumse kanana pairage haira kansida Babylon da sahi lising taruk muki mamang da leramba mi singduna satnaramba niyom mayam karamaina paisa paigani haibado khanglamba mi mayam singdo adu mayam mamai paklamba mi mayam singduna satlamba niyom singdu inma kambuduna ngasidi money se govern tore paisa se sel se phajana paire sini hainingis aduna ahanba saruk the richest man in Babylon gi ahanba a historical sketch of Babylon ngasi loisanjare mathang mari suba video the man who desired gold sana pamkiba nupa haibane mathang da lakadoriba chapter asigi mami mathangi content asigi mami the man who desired gold sana pamkiba nupa haibane mathangi contents masi amuk mathangi video saruk chapter number mari suba saruk tagi amuk paba haujarake ngasigi aina matek ama pathokjaribasi mayamna tabira kansida feedback pibi feedback to the kanaribra kanadabra haibadu mayamna haibiramo madu tajara kansida madu ujara kansida aisu nungai badu phaujagadoribani aina pathokjariba aina tawjaribasi ai yam khange haire haiduna tawjabana chadi aina paribasi mayamga khangminaraga khajikta oirabusu chawkhatminanaba financial gi maram sida business gi maram sida adagidi kari tawragadi hena chawkhatpa yabage kari tawragadi hena phagani haibadu gi maram da khoi khangminasi taminasi nainaminasi haiduna ai pathokjabani kudamoina haira kansida akoi manipur su ngairo Babylon ja karamain toraga leramba mafam no haira kansida pungkang kangaga nonga si marang kaina tadaba isinga si marang kaina leitaba mafam amani adubu lebak lehau yam phaba mafam ama oiramba aduga magi nakan sida turel ama chelamba Euphrates ko turel ama chelamba turel du chelamba sida Babylon da leirame ba mi mayam singna khut haiba engineer gumba adumba mi mayam ngata oiramba ne maram ora kan sida ngasai gi lebak lehau phaba mafam du moina irrigation system ithei lakhong gi system je fajana sema kan sida ising je pusala akan sida Babylon gi mafam sing sida lebak lehau phaba mafam sida mapot pasai wheat tagi barley dagi thara kan sida mana masing mayam da putho kan sida mahi maru mayam da putho kan sida yamna thina sel thum paiba adugumba lebak ama haibadu oikibani kedobagi khoi manipur da su yaroi loktak pa ami chau chau no leiri turel mayam ama seli sembide sabide ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯂꯧ ꯎꯗꯣꯔꯦ ꯂꯧ ꯎꯔꯦ ꯂꯧ ꯈꯥꯎꯔꯅꯤ ꯂꯧ ꯈꯥꯎ ꯂꯣꯏꯔꯕ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯧꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯏꯁꯤꯡ ꯐꯪꯗꯕꯒꯤꯔ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯕꯩꯅꯣ ꯈꯪꯗꯦ ꯂꯣꯏꯅꯃꯛ ꯀꯪꯉ ꯂꯩꯔꯅꯤ ꯕꯦꯔꯦꯟ ꯂꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯅ ꯏꯊꯩ ꯂꯧꯈꯣꯡ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯄꯤꯕꯤ ꯇꯥꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯕꯒꯤ ꯀ꯭ꯔꯣꯞ ꯔꯣꯇꯦꯁꯟ ꯆꯠꯄ ꯌꯥꯔꯣꯏꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯅꯣ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯁꯨ ꯕꯦꯕꯤꯂꯣꯟꯗꯧꯅ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯏꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁ꯭ꯇꯦꯠꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯔꯦꯚꯤꯅ꯭ꯌू ꯂꯩꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯁ꯭ꯇꯦꯠꯁꯦ ꯄꯩꯁꯥ ꯄꯥꯏꯗ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯁꯔꯀꯥꯔꯒꯤ ꯊꯕꯛ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯇꯣꯂꯣꯞ ꯄꯤꯕ ꯉꯝꯗ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯔꯦꯚꯤꯅ꯭ꯌू ꯖꯦꯅꯦꯔꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯅꯅꯕ ꯋꯦꯗꯤ ꯑꯃꯠꯇꯁꯨ ꯁꯤꯟꯗꯦ ꯑꯩ ꯀ꯭ꯔꯤꯇꯤꯁꯥꯏꯁ ꯇꯧꯖꯕꯗꯤ ꯅꯠꯆꯗꯦ ꯔꯦꯚꯤꯅ꯭ꯌू ꯖꯦꯅꯦꯔꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯅꯅꯕ ꯋꯦꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯄꯣꯠ ꯆꯩ ꯃꯍꯩ ꯃꯔꯣꯡ ꯊꯥꯕ ꯌꯥꯕ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯤꯡꯁꯦ ꯃꯍꯩ ꯃꯔꯣꯡ ꯊꯥꯍꯟꯗꯅ ꯈꯣꯠꯍꯟꯗꯅ ꯊꯥꯔꯒ ꯌꯣꯜꯂꯀꯥꯟꯁꯤꯗ ꯇꯦꯛꯁ ꯂꯧꯔꯒ ꯔꯦꯚꯤꯅ꯭ꯌू ꯀ꯭रिꯌꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯈꯪꯗꯦ ꯁꯣ ꯉꯁꯤꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯅꯗꯤ ꯇꯅꯔꯊ ꯃꯉꯥꯡ ꯆꯥꯀꯥ ꯃꯥꯂꯦꯝ ꯉꯥꯟꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯁꯤꯅ ꯃꯇꯥꯡꯁꯤꯗ ꯂꯣꯏꯁꯤꯟꯖꯔꯒꯦ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯕꯨ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ ꯍꯟꯅ ꯀꯥꯏꯅꯅꯕ ꯌꯥꯊꯪ ꯅꯤꯖꯔꯤ ꯄꯤꯅꯕꯤꯔꯁꯤ